He struck him out. What a job by Biddle. A double, an intentional walk, an infield hit, and then back-to-back strikeouts, and the Reds leave the bases loaded.
Today's episode is brought to you by Wings Flight of Hope, one of our new sponsors doing great things for the community. Again, Wings Flight of Hope. Also, Elmo's, best chicken wings in Western New York. Bella Pizza, doing great things. Razor's Doghouse in Eden. And last but not least, certainly Big D Tire, just to name out and shout out a few of our sponsors. Today, Jesse Biddle is brought to you by those following sponsors. Thanks for your support. Hi, Moneyball fans, welcome to another episode. Thanks for joining. Today, I have Jesse Biddle. Jesse Biddle was drafted 2010, first round, Philadelphia Phillies. Welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
Yeah. No. Thanks for having me, man. This is exciting. I appreciate you having me on. 2010 feels, every time I hear that, I keep thinking, wow, that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
You know? Yeah. It doesn't feel like it in some ways. And then in other ways, it feels like I was an entirely different person. But thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, and thanks for joining us, man. You were a pioneer, though, in a way, because 2010, there wasn't a ton of cats getting drafted right out of high school in baseball. I can tell you that, right? And you were 18 years old, correct?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've told the story a million times, but tell it 1,000,001. What happened right out of high school? Were you scouted in school? I mean, Germantown Friends High School. It sounds like something from like Saved by the Bell or something. Like, what is Germantown Friends? And how did this scout see you in high school? And how did that happen?
Yeah, I think just to give you the sort of high level kind of walkthrough of my journey, Germantown Friends. So that's a small little Quaker school in inner city Philly. So I grew up in Philadelphia and I went to that school from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Really? Okay.
I never went to college, right? As you said. So I've actually never been to a different school. It's the only schooling I have. It's the only school I know. I love it very dearly. But it is not a sports school. I had to make my own way. And, I'm grateful to the school, grateful for my experience, grateful for everything they taught me. But, it was definitely like a journey that I had to go on my own and in a lot of ways and find the right coaches kind of outside of school. So I found a couple coaches in inner city Philly that changed my life forever when I was 14 years old. I think, I was always tall and left-handed and that's great, but I didn't really know where the ball was going. I didn't really know how to control my body. And I definitely didn't know the work that it was going to take in order to get to the place I wanted to get to. So I found the right people to support me and they took me to the next level.
Tell me more about that. I have to hear it, especially having boys in baseball, an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, pretty decent little ball players. One school, first of all, you're the first guest, definitely, and probably the last that will say that they went to one school ever in their life, man. That's incredible. That's incredible. But so first of all, did you play other sports?
Yeah, so I grew up playing basketball. As I mentioned sort of before the call too, I am 6'5", and I stopped growing in 8th grade. So I was, as an 8th grader, I was about 6'3", 6'4", and then kind of going into my summer year going into my freshman year, I was 6'5" and stopped growing. So I thought I was going to be 7 feet tall, and I thought I was destined for, the short career in the NBA as a backup center. And then I stopped growing. And after my freshman year, I had a good freshman year on the varsity team, but I realized I'm not growing anymore. And I'm actually not that good at basketball. I actually can't dribble that well. And I was scoring 25 a game on the middle school team because the center for the other squad was 5'6".
Throw it in kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden, like we were playing some guys, and in Philly, there's some dudes who can play.
Yeah.
And I was like, that guy's 6'9", and he just put 30 on my head. I don't know if I'm ready for this. So I quit basketball after my freshman year to really focus on baseball because I knew that was going to be my future and that was my potential ticket if I could really pursue it and chase it down. And I never sort of lived my entire life just making sure that I never had any regrets, right? Just always being able to look in the mirror and say I did my best. And so I found coaches that I think the impact that a good coach can have is amazing, and the impact that a bad coach can have is also amazing. Bad coaches can really, really throw you off, especially when you're at a young age. So, my dad and I really wanted to find a coach that I could work with one-on-one. And we probably went to 10. And the amount of times where after we left, my dad just was like, do you think that's the right guy? And I was just like, I don't think so. We just kept moving on. And we went to one lesson with these two guys, Chuck Bushbeck and Chuck Bechtel. They're both the Chucks.
The Chucks, yeah.
And two guys that I'm still very close with to this day. I will shout them out in any interview I ever do.
That's so cool, man.
They had a drastic impact on me as a player and as a man, and taught me what it means to be a professional. And they just took me under their wing when I was 14 and changed my life forever.
Such a cool story. When you and your dad went to these 10, let's say you're on number 5, 6, 7, would your dad always say, like when he looked at you and said, do you think that's the right one? Do you think he ever thought that was the right one and that you guys disagreed? Or was he completely leaving it, the ball in your court?
He was never pushy. I think my dad would be the first to admit that I learned when I was 11, I knew more about baseball than he did. And he was like, I'm going to take the hands off the wheel here. And I think that what I felt, and now I do a lot of one-on-one lessons sort of post baseball career, and I work with kids and a lot of what I see is like, if in the first session, the coach is trying to basically reinvent the way that you pitch, then they are trying to coach you to be the player that they want you to be rather than make you the best version of who you are. And I think that that's what we ran into a lot was like, the first session with a guy, he's trying to change my arm action and change the way I throw completely without having really ever spent any time with me, without even really getting to know me at all. And I think that was something we learned pretty quickly was like, that's probably not the best way to bring something out of a guy.
That's so well said. And that can be whether it's pitching or hitting, right? Now, back then at 14, you're throwing, you're 6'5", you're a lefty. What, were you throwing with velocity? Did you know it was going to be pitching, or did you just love the game of baseball? So was it going to be either or?
I knew it was going to be pitching, or in part because it was what I loved, right? Yeah. Like I always enjoyed hitting, but it was because I was trying to score runs so that when I was pitching, I was winning,
Right.
Like I enjoyed playing first base.
Yeah.
But it was never really my calling. Pitching was always the thing that I loved the most. I just liked being in control of the game. I liked controlling the tempo of it, controlling the rhythm of it. And that competitiveness of like, it's me versus you as the pitcher. I felt so confident in that on that side. And so I think, when my first session with these guys, they videotaped me. It's how old it is. They videotaped me and they put like the cassette into the thing. And then they showed me what I looked like. And they literally they didn't coach me the entire time. And then they put this thing in and they just started laughing. And they were like, you have so much ability, right? But you're so bad, right? You have no idea what you're doing. We're not going to change you. We're just going to kind of guide you. We're going to provide exactly. And it was like that. Just, I remember being like, I'm throwing and these guys aren't saying anything.
Yeah.
They're literally not talking. I was just like, this felt very weird. And then at the end, they're just like, no. Like we didn't say anything because we don't know you, right? Like we don't know what works, what doesn't, what type of coaching is going to work. We're just going to let you do your thing.
And that's what you were looking for,
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah, you didn't want anyone changing the mold.
I'm not looking for a drill sergeant, right? I'm looking for a guide. I'm looking for a coach. And I didn't. Sometimes some of these coaches, they wanted to sort of yell at me or kind of shove me into these little boxes. And I needed somebody to provide guidelines, but let me be me.
Plus you're so impressionable. You're 14 years old, right? 13, 14. And you have a lot of these coaches, they start talking to you like you're an 18-year-old guy, like you're a man. And I completely get what you're saying. I do coach, I try, there's such that fine line, with control. And even if you see something that you don't like in someone, I love what you're saying right now, as far as not trying to completely reinvent the wheel and change them. Go up and touch on their stuff. One thing I learned is, a stance, to put it in a batter's perspective.
Yeah.
Back then, you probably thought at the time, well, I'm going to need to bat as well throughout my career, things from, you don't want to go and reinvent and change somebody's stance. And I think that's where you lose a batter too, right? Like
Correct.
They have something they've been doing for a few years, just how is that going to work for them? But did either one of the Chucks play pro ball, or what was their background?
Yeah. One guy was, he was a professional kicker. In football. Okay. Yeah, he was a kicker at Villanova. Unbelievable story. He's actually got a book written about it. It's pretty awesome. And then the other guy, Chuck Bechtel, so he played pro ball. He played at Marist and then played like 3 or 4 years of pro ball.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that, because those sound like really, really interesting guys. I don't know if they're still doing their thing, but
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Philly, Philly's interesting. you don't hear a ton of MLB players, coming from the Philly area. I found it interesting. I was just talking to the Teals, Aiden and Kyle Teal, up and coming players, catchers. They're both from Jersey, not too far from Philly, in that Mike Trout area, Voorhees, New Jersey or whatever. There's like something in the river there, man. Tom's River, something going on there where they play ball. Up in Buffalo, we're starting to get some recognition where I'm at, for players coming out. Was baseball, I know you had the one school but was there somebody around there that kind of led you into baseball? Was there someone that you looked up to and said, I want to be like this guy that came out of Philly? Or was it just the sport you fell in love with?
There were a few players that came out of Philly that were pretty big time players, or pretty big time draft picks. There was a lefty. It's funny shouting him out in an interview, but there's a lefty named Mark Adzik who went to rival school, who was a little bit older than me, but he went to Wake Forest, I believe, and he was a total stud. And I was like, man, I want to be like that guy. And then, funny enough, like my senior year, Team USA there was a big tournament. Oh, man, I don't remember what it's called. It's in Cary, North Carolina. It's like the Team USA facility. A bunch of players go play it. They end up taking 32 of those players to go do a tryout for Team USA, and then 24 of those guys go and play in the Pan Am games. And of the 32 players who were at the tryout, 3 of us are from Philly.
Okay.
Which is like pretty I mean, like we all went to schools and played against each other within 15 minutes of each other.
Wow.
So, that was a pretty, like, we were kind of like, damn, look at us. Go Philly. Philly.
Yeah. When you think about all the talent that comes out of the South and from, West California and everything, that's pretty.
Yeah. And we had 3 dogs who went there, and we all had really good tryouts. I threw 5 innings and pitched really well. My catcher was Bryce Harper, funny enough. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the team was nasty. I mean, Machado was that short, so we all had good tryouts. 2 of us, I was one of the guys who got sent home. But one of the guys from Philly did make it, and was he played second base for Team USA, Sean Coyle. And he ended up getting drafted in the 3rd round by the Red Sox. And he was about as good a high school player as you'll ever see.
Yeah. See, it's a cool story to hear that stuff, man. I absolutely love hearing it, man. It gives me goosebumps to think about, that camaraderie and that family. And that's what baseball is. There's that family element to it. I watched an interview with you, which almost had a somber back tone to it. And it was about how hard life is for a ball player before you get to that next level, right? Now, you drafted in 2010, first MLB game 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And listen, man, I've been interviewing like crazy, a lot of double, triple, high A, a lot of big leaguers. And I love hearing the stories and their journeys, of how everything went. But there's one common denominator. It's not what people think. This is not what people think, man. You're not, rolling in these plush first class, this kind of thing where, hey, can I get you a warm towel, sir? You're eating TV dinners on a bus, man. And you said in this thing that I watched, if you underperform, hey, thanks. Here's your signing bonus if you got one, and peace out. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the childish wonder that comes along with baseball as a kid goes away pretty quickly. And that's okay. I think that's part of life, and that's part of growing up. That's part of understanding any industry that you fell in love with, right? There are people who, I live in West Hollywood. The amount of people who come out here to make it big and live the dream, like this, every business is tough, right? And baseball is a business in the same way that anything else is. And it all comes down to dollars and numbers, and it comes down to what have you done for me lately? And I think it's maybe because I don't know, maybe it was my attitude or something, but it took a toll on me. It was hard. It was hard to realize those things. It was hard to realize that like the dream I was chasing wasn't necessarily this sort of, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No, I get it, man.
It's like,
you were a first round pick too. So that's very high expectations. You're a first round pick. And let's be honest, man, you're the big fish right there. Like,
yeah,
your buddies are all calling you. People you don't even know are calling you. Family members you haven't talking to, everybody kind of wants it. They're all calling you because you're the big fish. Well, then you get to that camp and it's all of those big fish, right? Somebody's big time in that town, whatever. You're grouped up with everybody else and you're starting from scratch. You're starting over,
Yeah, I think for me, it was always like, okay, I'm a first round pick, sure. And there's a lot of expectations outwardly, but it was the inward expectations were the ones that really took a toll on me, right? It was the expectation of myself that I need to be perfect, that I need to deliver. I think that's the thing we always forget about when we see these guys who sign these massive contracts. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's really hard. Like, yeah, they have money and they'll be fine. But man, that inward expectation that comes along with that signing bonus, mine was like tiny compared to some of these deals you're seeing now. And like it took a toll on me because I knew I had to deliver for myself and for my team. And so, that was the part that I had to really grapple with.
I love that transparency. It's almost a guilty feeling, right? Like there's
Yeah,
almost that guilt. It's just, if anyone's ever experienced that, which I know I have, right? If you're given something, or whether it's monetary or something else based on performance, and then if you underperform, it's guilt. There's a strong feeling of guilt. If I don't do this, I want to go give that money back. Now, none of us are going to do that, but you're living with that though, and you have
sure.
that transition.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
Well, I was going to transition into, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my Atlanta Braves, right? Because that's the Scott's family team here.
Let's get into it, man.
Let's get into it.
No problem. Actually, yes, 100%.
Yeah,
yes.
there we go.
No, I loved every minute I was on that team.
Would you say you had your best years as a pro with the Braves, in your opinion?
My best year as a big leaguer, obviously, was definitely with the Braves. That was really the one healthy year I got up in the show where I was like mentally ready and physically ready and able to deliver the product on the field that I believed I was capable of. And so, yeah, and playing for the Braves, man, like I was in the new stadium. The fans were crazy. Nobody expected us in 2018 to be any good, and we won the division. And man, that was a fun year. That was a good group, really good group.
Talked to so many former Braves where they usually start with nobody expected us to be good that year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Common denominator. The Braves have an absolutely phenomenal, front office when it comes to pitching.
Sure.
And they constantly deliver with these guys who kind of fly under the radar. I think there was one point with you where, being such a high draft pick, and then it taking a few years, I think you were 26, you kind of did fly in under the radar, came in at your point, and like, there were some people, and I'm sure you have to admit, there were some people that probably said, hey, this guy, he's not going to make it. And that's got to be a good feeling, coming and having that. You know what I'm saying?
Some people. I was some people. First one to tell you, man, after I had elbow surgery, and I called my agent. I was like, man, can I still get that college money? Like, I need to do something else in my life. And I was 23 at the time.
Wow.
And I was like,
TJ?
I can't.
Did you have TJ?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had TJ, and then I got traded to the Pirates. So I was with the Phillies up to AAA, had TJ, got traded to the Pirates, was with the Pirates for a month, then got traded again.
Were you with
to
Altoona?
the Braves? No. I was just rehabbing in spring training.
Okay.
Yeah. And then got traded again to the Braves. And so the Braves traded for me and just bet on me. They just believed in me. And they did. And I will always be grateful to them for a lot of reasons, but they really believed in me. In that moment, I was coming off of surgery. They rehabbed me for 18 months, brought me back, put me in the bullpen in Mississippi in AA. And then I blew out my lat. And I was like, man, they're taking me off the 40-man. Like, there's no way these guys are going to keep me. Like, I called my agent again. Hey, what's going on with that college money again? Like, what's the deal there? And he's like, would you stop calling me about that? And also, like, just let's see what they do. And they kept me on the 40-man. They believed in me again. And I came to spring training, had an okay spring training. They sent me to AAA. And then I don't know what happened, but something happened. Something clicked, and I just took off.
Well, I think what happened was, you pitched like Jesse Biddle. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what happened. You had all of these injuries. People don't understand that part of it either. When you suffer an injury, you're suffering mentally as well. It's not just that TJ. It's not just that rotator. It's not just this, right? There is a lot of
you
battle mentally with like, how am I going to get back to where, what if I start pitching and I lose 10 miles an hour, on my velocity, right? Like, those are all self-doubt things. You overcame that, man. I mean, you were still whipping, right? You had some spice on the thing. I mean, if not came back stronger, right? You were a high 90s guy, if I'm not mistaken, when high 90s was not quite an expectation like it is now,
Yeah.
So,
True.
I mean, now, like, high 90s is like, okay, let's see if you can hit 102. But you were, you were up in high 90s and you were lights out, and I remember I had confidence, when you came in to a game. There was a few guys that I felt that way about, and now as time went by, then there was, a few guys. We'll talk after the show. There's a few guys that I didn't feel that way about. I was talking to Winks about it, and a couple other guys about it.
Sure.
It's crazy, man. But transitioning and doing what you did, and then playing out the career, right? Now you're 29 years old, I think. And I respect the hell out of the fact that you said, you know what? This is it. Like, I want to go and move on to a different stage of my life. I learned something today. I learned that in Japan, they do not call themselves Japanese or Japan. They call it Nihon.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. They don't use the word Japan.
Thank you, Jesse Biddle, for this interview, because I now know that Japan is not a thing and it is Nihon. I feel like I went to Germantown Friends High School, bro.
It's either Nihon or Nippon. Yeah, they use those two words to say Japan. Yeah,
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's transition.
I will say this. I mean, if there's ever anything, so 2021, I pitched for the Braves again. I came back to Atlanta after bouncing around a little bit and finished the year in AAA. Finished the year throwing the ball really, really well and feeling a little frustrated that I didn't end up getting a call up. But hey, look, they won the World Series, so they clearly made a right decision on who they put on the roster. I called my agent. As you can tell, I call my agent when I'm frustrated.
You like to call your agent? Yeah.
Hey, look, we all do. A good agent should be the one you call. And my agent has been representing me since I was 16. So at this point, I'm 29. So it's like, he's my guy. And I call him. I'm just like, hey, man, I think I'm done. Like, I just think this is it's time for me to move on to something else. And he's like, okay, sounds good. If that's what you want to do, no worries. And so he called me back the next day and he's like, hey, look, we got an offer from a Japanese team. They're giving you 24 hours to decide before they move on to the next guy. Wow. Here's what the deal is, if you want to do it. And I was literally in the middle of planning my wedding with my now wife. We were finalizing wedding planning. And the wedding was in like 2 weeks.
Are you serious? The wedding was 2 weeks from when you got this call?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I told my wife the deal and she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to retire. And she's like, all right, well, let's try Japan first before you just retire. Let's give it a shot. And she couldn't have been more right. It was kind of the exact shakeup that I needed. And I suggested to any guy who asked me, right, there's so many guys who are in my position, kind of in that like late 20s, early 30s, end of their career, kind of not sure what to do. They're like, do I really, you kind of view going to Japan. I think some guys see it as like giving up on the dream of playing in the big leagues, and I could not have been more wrong. I used to view it that way too. Man, first of all, it's competitive as hell, right? Like it is not easy over there. No. And then it is just such a great opportunity to grow as a person and to see a different culture. If you've ever been to a country where English is not the first language spoken, it is pretty shocking, and it really tests your ability to like figure things out and to live on your own. It was, as far as seasons that I played in baseball, I played about 14 years. That was the most fun I ever had.
Okay.
By far. Yeah.
And that's where you were kind of battling internally when I asked you about the Braves, when I was forcing the answer there, is I think you were thinking about Japan. That has to be one of the best decisions you ever made, period. And shout out to your wife, man, for giving you that opportunity.
Always.
I mean, there's so many, think about it. There's so many wives that would have selfishly said, hell no, we have a wedding coming up. And, and to truly love someone and to know, like, to be thinking, okay, listen, they need to do this because I don't want them living with regret. You know what I'm saying? And truly, that's amazing. You got a good girl, man. Like for her to think that, JB, to be like, if this guy could have regret if he doesn't go and do it. Did she go over there with you for a time?
Yeah. So I went the first 3 months on my own. And then she stayed, 4 months in the middle, and then I did the last couple months alone.
So then getting to experience that with your best friend and you're getting to go to Japan and live there, how were you treated there? I know that most, I see you smiling a little. I mean, was it?
It's a special place, man. It really is. And I think if you approach Japan in the way that it deserves to be approached, which is with respect and humble and not trying to imprint your American philosophies onto them.
Okay.
And you respect the culture and you go in there with the intention of like, I want to learn and I want to become a part of this. I hired a tutor. I wanted to learn the language. I wanted to build a bond with my teammates, and they take really good care of you, right? They give you nothing but respect as long as you show them nothing but respect.
Without getting into exact figures, I don't anything like that. It's none of my business. But when they offer and they give you X number, is it nominal enough to, if there was a close decision, like, hey, I'm going to do it because of that?
Well, I mean, I made more money in Japan than I ever made in
okay, America. That's what, you know what I mean?
They pay really well. Yeah,
okay,
they pay great.
Okay,
they pay great.
That's
they
awesome.
Also take care of your housing. Like they put you up in a nice apartment. You have meal money. They take really good care of you over there. respect, I think, in that country. And I made some lifelong friends there that I'm still very close with and always will be. And I grew more in that year as a man and as a friend and as a brother and as a son than I ever could have.
That's so cool, man. So what team do you play for over there? And
so I played for the
I could have looked all this up, but I didn't want to.
No, you're good.
No, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. No, it's great. I played for the Oryx Buffaloes, which is I thought Oryx was like a city. They told me, oh, you're playing for the Oryx Buffaloes, the same way it's like the Toronto Blue Jays or the Atlanta Braves. And no, Oryx is just like enterprise over there. It's like a rental car company. Oh. And I was like, I'm gonna go live in Oryx. And everyone's like, no, you're not. That's not.
No, you're not.
The team is in Osaka, which is which is the second major city in Japan. And what a cool experience. And we won the championship. Like we won the Japan series there in front of 60,000 people in Tokyo, and that was the coolest.
60,000 come out, right? I mean,
it's crazy. It's insane. It is. It just, what it does is it fits their culture so well as a country, I think. Like in the same way that football fits America, right? It's big plays and crazy tackles and super violent and exciting in a way. Like baseball is a much more sort of precise game, and there's a lot of waiting around and a lot of understanding the little things, right? Cerebral. And so I just think that really fits their culture there. And there was a real respect for the game, and the fans would cheer for good plays regardless of who made them. It was cool to see. I learned a lot about just sort of pitching philosophies over there. It's not surprising that guys like Roki Sasaki and Yoshinobu Yamamoto was my teammate. He was my best friend in Japan.
That is so cool, man.
And watching him and his kind of daily routine, it's really, I think, a testament to what you can accomplish. It's not just about your physical gifts, right? It's about what's in between your ears. And I said it 100 times when people would ask me, what's the difference between him and everyone else? I was like, teams are going to pay a lot of money to bring him over to America, but they're paying for his physical gifts, sure, but they're really paying for what's in between his ears, because it's amazing the way he approaches this game. And I've never seen a scientist like this before. It's really crazy.
That's the same sentiment, man. That's what I was thinking. What guys? So you had him on your team. Was there any other MLB guys that would be notable that were on the team that year?
Yeah. Yoshida, who plays for the Red Sox. Yep. He was like our 3-hole guy, and we just had a bunch of dogs. We really did. We had a great team.
When you guys would talk, would you try to use your tutored Japanese, or were those guys English speaking?
Not as much English speaking as they told me there was going to be. They're like, oh, all the guys learn it. They all learn English in school. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I show up and it's like, not really, which was good for me. It was really good for me to be like, okay, I can't just go in here and be like, oh, it's just like an American clubhouse. I'll just treat everybody like I would in America. Let me really humble myself here and go and get a tutor and figure out the language.
All right. You did pretty well.
By the end of the season, I got better. Definitely. Yeah. I was definitely able to understand better. I could understand what guys were talking about and chime in here and there. But really it was I had a translator who became one of my best friends and still love the guy to death. And he was really my main way of communicating, I think. And so, yeah, it was a cool experience.
That's such a rad story, man. And it's almost like a rite of passage. I think that, and like you said, this will be so helpful. There's a lot of guys who watch my show and there's a lot of pros even, who watch my show now. Maybe, and a lot of these, these AA, these guys that are pitching now, and the career is not over, right? To go over there, this is so awesome and refreshing to hear. Going over there was the best time you ever had, man. It's not so limited, right? To okay, you get sent down for whatever and my career's over. So I appreciate you sharing this story. I'm sure others will too, because it really is a great story. I'll get into a couple of fun questions here with you, man. That's how I like to kind of wind things down. What's your favorite board game?
It's got to be Monopoly. I mean, that's a game I played growing up.
It's clutch.
Yeah, Monopoly's great. I don't know the last time I played Monopoly, because I don't know the last time I had just 6 hours to get frustrated.
Well, and somebody else needs to have 6 hours too.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Dude,
I'm hitting you with some tough ones here, brother.
I don't even eat ice cream. That's the thing. Ice cream's
too cold. I've seen your body, and no, you don't.
No. It's not like that. It's not like that. I love sweets, dude. Don't get me wrong. Ice cream's too cold. That's my hot take.
Okay.
Yeah, not into it. If I'm gonna have sweets, I don't want it to be cold. Sorry.
Throw your next pint in the microwave.
Deal. No, give me a chocolate chip cookie. All right. That's my favorite flavor ice cream.
We'll throw a pint of Ben and Jerry's in the microwave. We'll put it in shot glasses. And I think you and I just created the next wave
Sure.
of snacks.
Sure. I love it. That's genius.
We'll throw it on the shelves and we call it.
I'm now kind of turning into a businessman. So let's scale this thing up and let's do it.
DJ's shot glass ice cream. I'm down. I love this idea.
This is how it happens.
If you could go 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future, which one would you do?
I think the easiest answer is probably I'll go past and strike out Babe Ruth, right?
Oh.
And like just show everybody like I'm kind of the man. But nah, I'm gonna go future. I got some questions that need answers, you know.
That's a killer answer though with the Babe Ruth. That's the first time I've asked it and heard that. And from a pitcher,
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, and I've had a few pitchers. So I mean, I think that would be anybody's dream, right? To go back and say you struck out Babe Ruth.
I mean, I'll punch that guy on 3 pitches right now. I haven't played in 2 years.
You take him down.
I'll tell you right now. That guy's never seen a sweeper like this. He's front door sweeper and back door two seam. He's done. He's not seen this.
No, he's used to knuckleballs and those fastballs coming in at 82. He's got
nah. And I got 86 in the tank right now. Don't you worry. It's humming.
This was great, man. You're a humble dude. Great stories, man. I'm really happy for you. You know, it sounds like you're in a really good place. It sounds like you're really happy with the decisions you made. And you're just a cool dude to talk to, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Are you out? You're out in Cali?
Yeah, out in LA.
You like it out there?
Yeah, I do. I love it. I don't know if it's where we're going to be forever. We've been here for about 7 years, and so it's a really special place. And as far as like getting involved in the early stage venture space, especially in sports, this is a great place to be.
Yeah, that's a big difference from Philly. I can tell you that, right?
Yeah, definitely a big difference. It's 75 every day. It's kind of weird.
When I first heard West Hollywood or LA, I'm thinking, well, you got the looks, you got the body. Maybe the guy's movie star, man. Maybe he's going to.
God, could never. I could never be in front of the camera, dude. I'm getting uncomfortable just being in this interview.
Stop it.
Yeah.
But no, this was a lot of fun. I sincerely do appreciate you coming on. You're awesome, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah. We'll keep in touch.